Hey guys, I'm Ken Gushi here with Greddy Performance, and I just got the keys to my brand new ride, a Toyota Supra, but it's not no ordinary Supra. This is the Toyota Gazoo Racing Greddy Performance GR Supra. Now I know you guys want to know all about it, the details, nut and bolt behind this build, but let's take a step back and take you behind the whole story of how I even ended up here in the first place. So back in 2019, we were still competing in the Greddy Performance 8.6, and I knew at that point that this was going to be my last year competing in that car. So the story came about where Toyota Racing approached me saying, hey, we might have a brand new build for you come December, so just get ready for it. At that point, I didn't know what the product was going to be. Was it going to be a Corolla? Was it going to be another 86? Or was it going to be the GR Supra? And so when December comes around, they said, hey, your car is ready for pickup. It's the GR Supra. Go ahead and just get down to business. And so we went to go pick it up back in December. It was the 19th of December, the first day I had my eyes on this car. So that's when the build began. I mean, the first day we got it, I started stripping down the car, taking all the interior parts here at Greddy Performance. All the chassis prep, the nut and bolt going out of the car was being done here. The roll cage was done by Sean Adriano in-house. For the first time in my career, I had the opportunity to be the main brain behind the builds. I had to sort of come up with an idea of how I wanted the build to be, and of course applying everything that we learned with the 8.6 was applied to this build. Everything from how can we be a little bit more efficient, how can I build the car so that it's easier for my mechanics to work on it in case something happened at the track. Everything from the refueling process, putting in more water, tire check, taking off the bumper. In fact, I designed the front end so easy that all it takes is 3 bolts on each side and the whole front end comes off, including the headlights, bumper, and crash beam. The crash beam that we use is actually the factory piece. It's lightweight, it's aluminum, and there was no reason to build a whole new front crash beam knowing that this was going to work the way it did. Now the number one question I get asked all the time is, what's under the hood? Is it a 2J? It sounds like a 2J when you guys are driving it at testing. What is it? In fact, we used the original B58 engine that comes with the GR Supra, and we were able to make about 900 horsepower and 800 pound-feet of torque on this Bluemoon built B58. So we're pretty excited about the numbers that we saw. And of course, going into this project using the B58, we were kind of skeptical at first because we don't have any data. We've never competed with the B58. We've always been with the 2JZ, and it's brought so much success, reliability. So of course, going into a new platform was a little scary at first, but working with our current partners from the past, like Run BC, Bluemoon, Supertech, and of course Greddy, I was able to put a little bit more faith into the overall build of the engine. So having partners like Motel lubricants that keeps the engine healthy, run after run, even in high heat conditions, can put me at ease in that aspect of reliability and performance. All right guys, now speaking about the engine, I actually can't wait to show you guys what's under the hood. So let's go ahead and pop the hood open and show you guys around. Ta-da! Do I look like I'm praying?
You should start
yeah.
by that. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, I was just praying to the god of drift. All right guys, so this is the heart of the engine. It is the original B58 that comes with the GR Supra, but of course this isn't no ordinary B58. We've beefed it up with parts from Run BC, Supertech, Greddy Performance, and even Borg Warner turbos. So this one puts out, again, 900 horsepower and about 800 pound-feet of torque. So that's a lot of power. Now, the concept behind this build was, of course, applying everything that we learned from the old 2J platform which comes with performance, reliability. So of course, you know, we took it to Bluemoon Performance, who's done pretty much all of our engines here at Greddy Performance. This one was no different. I mean, I just need reliability. I need a lot of power. Now, what's powering the B58 is a gigantic Borg Warner EFR 9280. We've actually upsized the turbo from last year. Last year we were running a 9180, so we're like, hey, why not, you know, go bigger, try to get more power out of it. Gave us 900 horsepower, which is a lot more than what we were running. And of course, to control the boost, one of my newest partners for this year is Tile. So they provided us with 2 MVR 44 wastegates, which is going to control the boost for us. What's keeping the air intake temps cool is our gigantic Greddy front mount intercooler, which I'll show you guys in a minute. But behind that, we have an oil cooler. Now, there's a reason why I placed the oil cooler behind the intercooler this time. Last year at St. Louis, there was an incident where I actually tapped the car in front of me, and what ended up happening was the oil cooler shredded into pieces and I spilled oil all over the track, and that pretty much ended our weekend in competition. So I remember that, and that was actually one of my worst moments of my career. So when I was building this car, I knew that I wasn't going to put the oil cooler far forward. It was going to be way behind the crash beam, and in fact behind the intercooler with a puller fan. So it's not only cooling the oil cooler as the fan turns on, it's actually pulling cooler air from in front of the intercooler, and with the addition of the AEM sprayer nozzle, it's going to be not only pulling in cold air but also cooled air with the addition of the sprayer through the fans. So that comes down to keeping the air intake temps down and the oil temp down, with the addition of having extra space in front of the car, so in case I do hit something, there will be no damage to the oil cooler. Another piece that I kept on this engine from the 2JZ was the Ignition Project's coil packs, and you know, we've had huge success with the coil packs, and we knew that we weren't going to run anything else besides IP, so we had asked them to sort of develop a brand new package for the B58 program, and they were just able to provide us a turnaround time of less than a week, so pretty happy about that. And of course, that also helps in keeping consistent power, consistent spark, in fact, more powerful spark on ignition, and it's just super reliable. It's never given us an issue, and it always provided us with excellent spark performance. So, or the engine goes, that's pretty much down to the basics. We did move the radiator to the back, which I'll also show you guys in a minute. What that also allows us for is to just move everything in general far back behind the danger zone, behind the bumper. And also, by moving the radiator to the back, we're able to move some of the weight back there. And of course, you want, you know, really good balance in drifting. So that allows us to remove some of the forward weight in front of the front axles to the back of the car, as well as adding more cooling capacity. So it's just a win-win situation for doing so. Ooh, one thing I forgot to mention is that the original B58 is actually a 3-liter, but thanks to Run BC, we're actually using a 100mm stroker crank. So it brought up the displacement from a 3-liter or 3.0 to a 3.2, which yielded us, you know, additional couple hundred pound-feet of torque in the mid-range alone. So that definitely helped in providing us with a lot more torque in the mid-range with the addition of nitrous. But nitrous is just used to spool the turbo in the mid-range. So once it hits full boost or peak boost around 4,000 RPM, nitrous is cut off, and it's all boost from there. All right, that's the engine. That is the heart of the car. We're good. All right, now moving on to the wheel, tire, brake, and suspension assembly. The first thing you guys notice is this bright white raised ground lights 57DR. This is a new design for us this year. Last year we were running the 57CR, so this year we decided to add one more spoke and went with the DRs. Now behind this is the WinMax big brake kit. This is a actually pre-production piece for now, but they're going into production with it. We've had huge success with this in our 8.6. In fact, they work closely with a lot of drifters, so they're able to cater their brake pad compound to our application. and really catered to our different driving styles. So the tire that we're using this year is the Achilles Radio 123S. It'll be our second year in competition with them. Now this 123S actually brought us so much success last year in the 8.6, of course, giving us a win at the final round at Irwindale. So
your winner at the House of Drift 2019, Ken Gucci unanimously gets the win in the Greddy Performance Toyota Racing Toyota 86.
Really happy to be back on the team with them. Now I'm gonna go ahead and turn this guy over so you guys can see all the good pieces inside the wheel that normally people don't get to see, which is probably some of my favorite components of building a drift car. WiseFab came on board back in 2015, and the first year that I was with them actually gave us a second place championship. So we've stuck with them and we swear by their products. What this does for us is it gives us so much steering angle, and they've already done the math and the geometry to, calculate what works best for each chassis. So all we got to do is pretty much bolt it on and apply our alignment spec to it. This kit was no different. As soon as we bolted it on, the alignment was pretty dead on to what I like. Took it to the track for testing and it just works flawlessly. Some of the parts that I was kind of skeptical about were the ones that I made personally, like this sway bar bracket and this extended sway bar alone itself. The shock absorbers that we're using this year are from ST Suspensions. Now made it to the WiseFab steering kit, just gives us so much predictability on track. I've never had an issue with these shocks. They're super adjustable. In fact, one single click on the dampening changes the characteristics so much, so it's really easy to find the setup that you like according to each different track that you're at. All right, now we're under the car and I get to show you guys some of the cool bits that you never get to see. The transmission that we're using is a Samsonas 6-speed sequential. Last year we were using a 5-speed, but I figured with one more extra gear that we could use, we could probably play with different gear ratios. So we went with the 6-speed Samsonas. We have a carbon fiber drive shaft this time. Now all this time I was using an aluminum one, and I wanted to sort of shave some weight off of the drivetrain, so we went with the carbon drive shaft. Now I've heard scary stories where these might shatter or crack, but Drive Shaft Shop has been really good about making quality pieces, so you can go ahead and give it a try. I think we're able to lose a lot of weight in the moving parts of the drivetrain, which nets us a little bit more horsepower as well. So one cool piece about this underside is this flat oval tubing. This was actually provided to us by CX Racing, and Sean made this whole exhaust system for us. One of the issues we had was the car being so low that everything pretty much hung to the ground. This exhaust piece was no different. So we went with the flat tubing. This is a 4-inch oval tubing exhaust system for the midsection right here. And the back half is actually titanium by Tycon Industries. And the reason why the front half is stainless steel and the back half is titanium is because titanium was just so expensive. I'm broke. The combination of using flat oval tubing and titanium in the back half actually gave us a really unique exhaust tone, which I think you guys will like hearing the car in person. It sounds like a hybrid between a 1J and a 2J and some BMW. I don't know if you guys can picture that sound, but it just sounds good. I really love the sound. I love how the wastegates scream out of the dump tube from the exit of the hood. You guys will notice that this piece is aluminum tubing, so this is part of the cooling system. The hoses, as you guys know, building a race car with all new plumbing and hoses gets really expensive, so we were able to pick up a new partner for this year, BMRS, which is located in Costa Mesa. So they do a lot of race car plumbing, and they were able to provide us with pretty much hoses for the whole entire car. Everything from coolant, brake lines, boost lines, fuel lines, and of course these gigantic Dash 20 fittings. So thanks to BMRS for hopping on board. The aluminum pieces for our cooling, not just our cooling actually, but our intercooler piping and whatnot, was all through HPS. And they also make silicone hoses and silicone couplers. So a lot of the silicone couplers, actually in fact all the silicone hoses and couplers on this car are HPS. And the reason why I went with HPS is because When I build project cars on my own, for instance, my IS300 or my old A86 Toyota Corolla, I didn't want to spend time at the track, locating pinholes on the hoses and just going through hose failures. So HPS has always been really good on their products, never had an issue with them, and I wanted to kind of bring them on board to the race car program. So everything on this car, all the hoses, aluminum piping, HPS. All right, guys, so now we're at the bottom of the back end of the car, and the first thing you guys might notice is this gigantic SIKKY differential. Now, this was my idea of going to a winter's quick change this year, because last year or the previous years we would spend about 30 minutes every time I wanted a gear change. Now, with the addition of the SIKKY winter's differential, I can do a gear change in about 5 to 7 minutes max. It's all a matter of unbolting these 10 bolts and swapping the gears inside. There's 2 gears that are on top and bottom, and I just have to choose my ratio for that track. Bolt it back up, fill it with oil, and we're ready to go. What you guys also notice are these nice shiny blue arms. Now, this is also part of the Y-Stop kit. They actually started to develop their own axles, so we're giving those a try. This kit is in fact the wider version or the longer version of the original A90 Supra Y-Stop kit. What this allowed for us was to remove the excessive wheel spacers that we were using to fill the wheel well gap. Now, these rear quarter panels by Pandem are extremely huge and wide, so to cater to that, they were able to provide us with their newly designed extended arm kit. It's kind of hard to see, but this right here is the car battery, and the reason why it's here is because we wanted to move the weight around. We figured if we're not using the space, this would be a perfect spot for the battery. But one thing we failed to calculate was how lightweight this battery is. And these batteries are actually made by a company called Coils. We've been using them for a long time now, and they're probably the best batteries I have ever used in my life. One time we left the race car sitting for about 5 months, forgot to undo the battery, but when we went to crank it, it actually fired up like easy, no hesitation. So they don't lose any of its current or power. They hold charge for a long time. In fact, we've never had to recharge any of these batteries by Coils. And this time they were actually generous enough to brand one of their enclosure boxes with our logo, so Greddy Racing KG21. These weigh only 14 pounds in the case. Of course, if you take it out of the case, it's going to be even lighter. But if you want a lightweight battery that lasts forever and ever, never loses its charge, these bad boys are the way to go. And ours is right here. In fact, we have a quick disconnect on it, so in case we do want to leave the car sitting for a long period of time, all we got to do is just unplug this coupler right here, and we're good to go. All right, so now we're at the back half of the car, and we put a lot of thought into designing how we wanted to place our radium fuel cell tank, the nitrous bottle, and the radiator. And as you guys can see here, the back half is actually completely exposed to all the elements. In fact, there's no window that covers the back section of the vehicle. The fuel tank is exposed, the radiator is exposed, the nitrous tank is exposed. The reason why we did that is because in case we have to change the nitrous tank, we don't have to remove any windows or covers or anything. It's just, one pin to disconnect, undo the nitrous line, and out comes the bottle. By leaving the back half open, it actually pulls in cooler air from above the car through the radiator, and then beyond these 2 powerful spall fans that really keep the water temps down. In fact, I was so surprised when we went testing. The ambient temps were about 106 to 108 degrees Fahrenheit, but this whole cooling system kept the car down well below 210 degrees. So really happy about how the cooling system came out. One interesting feature about the fuel system by Radium Engineering is the fact that they built their own tanks in-house, and the tanks they built is cool because their system called the FCST, or the Fuel Cell Surge Tank System, is a all system in one package. What that means is there's a surge tank with all the pumps inside and the puller tank all in one package inside the tank. So you don't have fuel lines coming out to a surge tank to a pump to a filter. It's all built in one unit. What's also cool about the Radium fuel cell tank is that they provide you with the external frame that you can use as you start the build process of the car. You can pretty much weld it anywhere. It's really easy to access the tank depending on the placement of the frame. So we decided to offset the placement of the radium fuel cell tank on the passenger side of the vehicle, because obviously I'm going to be sitting on the driver's side. There's not going to be much weight on the passenger side, so by offsetting the tank weight to behind the passenger seat, we were able to get a little bit more refined overall weight balance of the vehicle. The very back half of the car is actually wide open and exposed. All we have back here is just a crash bar, the taillight bracket, the actual taillight, and the bumper. There's also a lot of thought that went into designing the back end of the car. Now with drifting, we're always forced to get close to walls, close to our competitors. And it's really easy to tap the back corner or the back bumper of the car to the wall. So to minimize the damage and the cost of the damage, we built what's essentially a cushion for damaging the bumpers or the actual metal part of the body. Factory bumpers we can always replace, but it's really hard to replace some of the more permanent metal pieces. So the back crash bar is actually bolted on, and these are really easy to replicate and make. And of course, when something happens, there's not going to be much damage going to the radiator, the fuel cell tank, and everything else that's between the two axles. Let me build oil pressure first. Okay, I guess that built oil pressure. Yeah, just can't get over that sound. But here we are in my office. This is our freshly built 2020 GR Supra office that I'm going to be spending a lot of time in this year. Of course, around me you're going to notice 2 full bucket seats by Sparco. We've been using Sparco for a long time now, and I probably wouldn't find myself in any other seat, only because they're so comfortable. Visually, I can see everything happening around me, even with these head bolsters in place. Just the ergonomics in general is what I really focused on while building the car. Just because I wanted to be comfortable driving the car, I wanted to make sure that I can see everything around me while driving, while competing, doing tandem, inside the smoke, and just using the most comfortable steering wheel out there in the market, a deep dish Sparco wheel 340. So everything is pretty much accessible from where I'm sitting in the driver's seat. The switch panel, the toggle switch, and of course the monitor right here, the AEM CD7L, that's made it to the AEM Infinity ECU that we're using for the first time this year, which is also what's powering the B58 engine. And one more addition, or one more cool feature that I really love about the interior of the car is our new floor mount tilt and pedal assembly. This is my first time using a floor mount pedal assembly, especially in a competition car. I'm used to more of a overhang pedal assembly, so moving on to the floor mount was kind of scary at first because I didn't really want to change the way I drive a car, especially moving around in the pedals, the brake pedal assembly, the clutch pedal, and the gas. So once we put it on, it was like right at home. I knew it was going to be really easy to work on, easy to navigate through on the track. You honestly don't notice a thing while you're driving, the difference between floor mount or top mount. In fact, this setup is better for me because now I can straight line the steering shaft instead of trying to loop around the brake pedal and whatnot. One more additional feature about the Tilton assembly is the Tilton reservoir tank that's mounted right above the pedal assembly. What this allows for me is to just constantly keep an eye out on the fluid level, which could be a sign of leakage. And it's just really easy to access from where I am, and anyone can pretty much go under the dash and fill up if necessary after a bleed. Now speaking about the clutch pedal, one of our newest additions this year was Clutch Masters, and they provided us with their twin disc clutch kit that my buddy Michael Essa has been using for years now, and he swears by it, so we actually made the move. While using a new clutch kit, we sent that clutch kit to WPC, who's been coating our moving parts for years now, and what that does is it prolongs the longevity or the lifespan of the product. So everything from the clutch discs, all of our gears for our winters, transmission parts, even our rods, pistons, crank. One last piece I want to talk about in the interior is this new SIKKY handbrake. When I contacted SIKKY for the first time inquiring about their winter's quick change, they offered me their new handbrake kit course, they have multiple colors to choose from, but I went with gold only because it looks pretty badass in here. Nice gold shiny color, and the way it feels is just super natural. The pullback style that I've been using for years now, it's like a rally-ish style handbrake setup. And the way I set it up is really close to the shift lever, so everything that happens from shifting, handbrake, steering, it just happens within, you know, milliseconds. So, all right, guys, thanks for sticking around this video. It's been a long 8 months off season, which is weird because normally we would be drifting by April, but it is already August and we are barely about to start our first round of Formula Drift. During the off season, I actually learned quite a few things. For one, I built a race car. 2, I learned how to cook. 3, I mastered Pokemon Go. And here we are right about to start our season with Formula Drift. So can't be any more excited to take this car around a few laps with our competitors on track. And I hope you guys are just as excited as I am. Till then, see you next time.